What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Average American Podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Tate. It's the podcast for the average American by the average American. Hope you had a great holidays. I did. You know, New Year's Eve was lit. It's my birthday. Had a super fun time. Did some really cool stuff with my friends and family. Christmas was sick. Awesome. So, probably part of the reason why it took me 3 weeks to get another video up. Just been kind of chilling, relaxing, taking a little time off. So yeah. Hope yours was good too. Hope you guys, got whatever you asked for, and everybody was a good time with the family. Um, so let's get right into the important stuff. Trump captured Maduro. Super kind of funny, to be honest. I don't condone it per se, but I think it's hilarious to just like as a country, we just kind of put our dick on the table all the time, and we're just kind of like, "Yeah, look at my fucking huge cock." Like that's just the way we behave. Like our government does anyway. Um, they just do pretty much whatever the fuck they want to do. Now, sometimes when countries buck back, they don't. It doesn't always work out in the Ukraine situation, Korea, Vietnam. There have been some failures. There have been times where we tried to, put a dick on the table and it got bashed with a hammer. But this is not one of those times. Um, but it does make me realize. Not that I guess we didn't already know this or you don't already know this, but just like both sides of the political spectrum, like you guys are fucking morons. Holy shit, you got Republicans being like, there's Venezuelans celebrating in the street. It's like, yeah, you were correct, but someone put a really good point, and I thought it was a really good point that if Trump got kidnapped from, which I just don't see it happening here, but I don't know if Venezuela thought their president would be kidnapped either. Um, if Trump had gotten kidnapped here, half the country would be celebrating and they would go, "Thanks for the liberation. This was great. That guy was awful." And the other half would go, "That's really fucked up that you came in and took our president." And then I guess I say half, I should say two-thirds. So one third would be upset, one third wouldn't. And then the other third would be like, "Wow, this is fucking weird. I don't have any affiliation one way or the other because we only get about half the people to vote in an election anyway." Which the older I become, the less I believe in the institution and the voting and all that kind of stuff. So, it doesn't feel like your vote matters a lot more than it used to. And maybe it just always did to like older people. And I'm just young and naive and I didn't see it and I wanted to believe that it made a difference. But after the Trump administration that I've been watching, and 1 year of this guy just making bad fucking decision after bad fucking decision, you know, I don't know. I don't know. It's hard to feel trustworthy in any sort of the political establishment, even that your vote carries weight. Um, but regardless of that, uh, you know, what are the long-standing effects of this? I do not know, because you like to think that we've gone past. Like you read history, right? Assassinations of political opponents. That was what World War I was built on, was the murder of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, I think was his name. You know what I'm saying? If you Google it, I'm somewhere in the realm of being correct on, why the reason of it, what it started. As to the reason on why he was killed, I don't know. But anyway, that's not what we're talking about. Uh, the point being that you see all of these things and you like to think that we've evolved past that, societally speaking. We've evolved past that kind of stuff and we're doing better than that now. And then we go and just like kidnap a country's president. He's a dictator, sure. That's and I gotta be honest, I take that with a grain of salt because I just who knows what to believe anymore. Should we believe the mainstream media and them saying like, hey, that guy's a dictator, they really appreciate us doing that, or should we, you know, kind of think for ourselves and be like, okay, I feel like there's a lot of liberal countries, European countries, that would probably say that Trump is a dictator, but just based on what they've seen in the public media. Obviously, we know it's way more nuanced than that, um, and it's not just whatever the liberal media says. And so that's why I have trouble like committing to the idea that this guy's just a straight up dictator. This feels like another regime change war that's just maybe got less um, resistance. Maybe I don't know that for a fact, but it feels like less resistance, right? Like we can go in, we can refine their oil, all that stuff. Like the Middle East is such a what's a good word to describe the Middle East? Tumultuous, maybe? It's not very solid, except for a couple of places. Other than that, you look at like Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq, and Saudi Arabia's maybe the worst example of that. But even then, they still have a power struggle for the royal Saudi family and all kinds of stuff. Which, if you listen to Ian Carroll on Tucker Carlson's podcast, most recent episode where they talked about the Vegas shooting, that was super interesting too. Um, but so it seems like this is just a resources grab, regime change, Maduro, which also is confusing because Maduro said he would give us everything. Um, and I guess I don't understand. If he's going to give us everything, why'd we go in and kidnap the guy? That just seems a little confusing to me, I guess. It would be easier to keep the current regime, use them to exploit the resources. And I'm just speaking strictly from a strategic standpoint. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm simply saying that's what would make sense. Um, but we don't do that. We go ahead and we install our own leaders in countries that have spoken out against us or do different things than what we do. Um, you know, if they don't agree with Western principles, then we got to get them up out of there. That's what it seems like. So I don't know. It's definitely not helping his case. I don't think here anyway. Um, as far as the whole fascistic ideas, he's a fascist. Da, 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 da. I don't think he's a fascist. Fascism would be coming in and trying to take over the whole political system. Not allowing you to protest, not allowing you to say things on the internet that disparage him or disagree with him or all that kind of stuff. Um, I think ultimately what it comes down is to the guy's just a megalomaniac. He just wants Trump to be remembered, the name Trump, as if it wasn't already super prominent from his business endeavors, but now it's globally known. People remember Trump for good or for bad. I suppose there's no such thing as bad press, is what they say. Not sure I agree with that when you look at the lens of history. I think Hitler would probably disagree with that. Stalin, Mao Zedong, a few just to name that maybe would say that press could end up being pretty bad for you. Um, but regardless, it's just one of those situations that is bad. From the way we look globally, for a country that's trying to establish itself or reestablish itself as the empire, feels like there's cracks in the armor. There's things that aren't going well for us overseas. And then you have the whole Israel dissidents and the Gaza stuff that's been happening, and we're vehemently standing behind Israel. That already looks really bad on the world stage. Um, so I don't know. That whole situation we'll have to monitor a little more closely. I will say I just objectively think it is funny though for a guy to be like, "I'll be here. You can come get me," and then we go in and we're like, "Okay, sounds great." We show up, we blow some shit up, we steal you in the middle of the night. This feels like a fucking spy novel. Like what? Like only I feel like only a Donald Trump regime would do something so open that it could be considered to be like a story we've seen in television, movie, literature. So I just objectively think that's a funny thing that's happened. And, um, you know, we're such a big business, and I don't know if we could ever get past war being a business. It's a racket. Smedley Butler wrote a whole book on it. I'd like to get my hands on it. I'm sure I could. I should read it. It's probably, from what I've heard, it's not very long, but war is a racket. It's all about making money, it's resources, land. We're just supposedly more refined now, but I don't know if I agree with that. I don't know if I believe that we've evolved in the way we conduct ourselves socially. The only difference is, the real change to me is that people are trying to make you cool with like lopping off penises and cutting off girls' boobs and all kinds of weird shit. And I'm not with that. That shit's weird. And that feels like the only social evolution we've really done because I mean, what is liberal progressivism really? Other than trying to forcibly push along all of the weirdest shit, at the idea of everyone's included. It's like, yeah, everyone could be included, but some of us, you know, it's like I could be nice to you in public, and I still think in the back of my head, you look fucking weird, bro. You got half your head shaved, your hair's green, you got a nose ring, ripped jeans, which, some of that stuff is debated on whether or not it's weird, but you put the whole ensemble together, and then I feel uncomfortable next to you in line. And I mean, that's just the reality of it. Now, I'll be polite to you in public, and I'm not gonna go like, "Hey, you're a fucking weirdo, like, you make me uncomfortable." I'm not gonna do that, but realistically, you can't be mad, when someone's like, "Hey, what you do makes me feel uncomfortable." That's just they're allowed to feel that way. Like, if you're allowed to feel like, "Oh, I wanna dye my hair green and shave half my head," and be in a four-person relationship and all kinds of other shit that the rest of us consider super fucking weird because it's just not natural, like, then you can't be mad that you get to do that, but I get to also say like, hey, you're fucking weird for that. Like, it's two sides of the same coin. And it just seems like this whole idea of liberal progressivism is really is the fascistic idea, saying that like I can do this and you have to tolerate me, but I don't have to tolerate you and I don't have to tolerate your beliefs. Do as I say, not as I do. It's weird. It's weird to say you're on the side of the people while also disenfranchising an entire group of people because they have some different opinions. Seems pretty strange to me, I guess. I'm not really sure how you plan on, you know, getting people on board with that stuff. And it comes from both sides. Like the conservative side of it, they're more tolerant, definitely. They're not gonna publicly shame people, which maybe we should be, but they're not gonna publicly shame people. They're not gonna say, "Hey, you know, you can't believe that," or so on and so forth. They'll tell you you're wrong, but they're still like the kind of people that'll have a beer with you afterwards. Um, and I think that's where the disconnect is. Why some people might gravitate more towards a conservative role, you know, And I definitely think I'm a centrist that leans right fiscally and maybe a little socially liberal, a little bit more socially liberal than I am socially conservative. But that's really just about like saying like, gay people are fine. It's whatever. You guys are a little overboard, with the gay stuff. We could probably dial that shit back a little bit. It's fine to be represented in media, but not everything has to be flamboyant homosexuality all over the fucking place. We get it. You like penis. It's fine. I don't care. But I don't need to see it in every fucking thing that I watch. Seems absurd. People obviously got annoyed with the Stranger Things whole situation. And the way I read it, because I've never watched the show. So I'm just objectively talking about, um, my perspective on seeing how some people have reacted. And they say it's part of the plot line of the show. So Vecna, who's like the monster person, um, cannot hold that over Will, the character who says he's coming out gay. However, a lot of people said it could have been more tactfully done. It could have been like, I don't like girls. And then they could have been like, dude, knew you were gay the whole time. That's fine. We love you. And that's like a normal way to handle that. If one of my friends is like, listen, man, I've been holding that back. I need to tell you, like, I'm gay. And I just feel like I need to tell people because it's just not something I want to hide about myself anymore. I'd be like, bro, it's fine. I love you. You're still my friend. It's not gonna change. I might not feel comfortable in my underwear around you anymore. I'm just kidding. But for real though, most people would go, "You're still my friend. I still love you." That doesn't define you as a person. But see, there's a problem now where it seems like homosexuality has to be a personality trait. Does it need to be a fucking personality trait, or your entire personality is that you are gay? That seems weird. You don't like other shit? Like all I like is gay. Fuck, that's real one dimensional. You must be boring. And to some degree uncomforting. Because it's just like, good God. You don't like movies or TV or anything that isn't like celebrating the queerness of everyone? I don't know, that just seems fucking weird to me, man. I like a lot of shit, a lot of different stuff, and most of it doesn't have anything to do with me being straight. Most of it doesn't have anything to do with that. My love for Star Wars has nothing to do with me being straight. My love for anything sci-fi, all that shit has nothing to do with me and my sexual orientation. And it just seems like I think that's what people get annoyed by is, when it is your personality. I don't care that you're gay, but if that's all you are, it's really fucking annoying. And I'm sorry, if you're a guy and you wear big long nails or you paint your nails or you do shit like that, you're fucking weird, bro. Now, it's okay for you to be weird. No one's saying you can't be weird. And you should go hang out with other people who are like, oh, I'm weird too. Let's all be, and that's what you're doing. But then you're getting mad at other people who are like, God damn, you guys are fucking weird. And you're like, how could you say that? And it's like, well, you guys all got together because you're weird in that specific way. Because I think we're all weird in our own way. Like everybody's weird about something or another, but you guys are weird in that way specifically. And so you chose to hang out with people who are also weird that way. And then you're like, my weird is not any worse than yours. And it's like, well, yes, but it's also subjective. It's an opinion based thing. You know, I don't hang out with people who, wear butt plugs, but maybe you got a group of butt plug wearing people that you hang out with. Shit like that. That, the rest of us are going to go, okay, I don't think I'm in on that, but I'm also, furries is a really good example. Dude, that's the weirdest shit. You guys fuck each other in animal costumes? Strange. I don't think anyone will argue it, except for you guys. And then you have the whole anime demographic, weird motherfuckers that like to, and it's like I said, it's okay, but you got to understand that you only can bond with like 10% of the population, if that's probably less, probably significantly less. I'm just giving like a blanket number here. So it's one thing to be into something, and it's another for it to be the basis of your life. Like it's cool to like anime, but if you dress like anime, you talk like anime, and that's all you do and that's all you are, you're going to find it difficult to branch out, excuse me, and make other people, really want to engage and be friendly and all that kind of stuff. It just, and I'm sorry, but it tends to be that a lot of you don't shower and you don't take care of your hygiene, which is a fucking problem too. But that could be said about several different sectors of individuals, so I won't just pin that on the anime people. Mostly, if we're being honest, it's just people whose parents didn't like make them have responsibilities. And I could have easily turned out that way because my mom didn't make me have that many responsibilities. But thankfully, my dad did make me have responsibilities at his house. And I think eventually, those worlds kind of meshed, along with some help from, strangers that I lived with that kind of made me realize I wasn't being a clean person. And so those people have just never been forced to do that. And no one's ever shamed you for being, weird so that you can kind of tamper it back and be like, oh, be weird with people who are into that and like show that weirdness to people who are into that. But I can also have friends who are regular folks who like sports or, want to talk about the weather or whatever mundane bullshit we can all kind of use to get through our day. And so I think the whole point I'm trying to make here is that there's this issue that I have with liberalism, the way it's defined currently. Not the classic like 60s, 70s, 80s liberalism where it's like about giving equal rights to people. I think that's a fair statement, although I do think that there's this like really annoying thing about black culture where there's like a large sector of black people that only believe in black victimhood, which is a fucking massive problem to me because you'll never change your history or success if you don't get out of a victim's mentality. which I think is why it coincides with the liberal thing. You just saw the mayor of San Francisco say that he was gonna give him $5 million, but he doesn't have the money to give it. So then he wants the taxpayers, the federal bro, fuck you. I'm not giving a bunch of black people $5 million because their great grandparents were fucking slaves. That's stupid. I'm sorry. That's dumb as fuck. I'm Irish, mostly Irish. Okay? Should I get reparations for like the mistreatment of my people as they came here in the what was it, late 1700s probably? No, I shouldn't. No, neither should anyone else. Um, that's trying to force the world currently to pay dividends to people suffering of the past is going to create a heavy, heavy fracture in society. Because where does it stop? Okay, so do the people in Africa also owe reparations to black people in America? Because the Africans were the ones who sold a lot of slaves to the white Europeans to bring over to America. So do they also owe reparations? We can't hold another country accountable for that. So you get into a really, really dumb fucking idealism and a slippery slope that's just not sustainable for anybody. And all it is a bunch of finger pointing instead of you manning up, owning it, saying, fuck, I've made bad decisions or I was dealt a bad hand or this, that, or the other. It's like, what you really should be mad about is how much taxes are taken from you, or the fact that it's easier in your neighborhood to sell drugs than it is to get a job that pays well, or the fact that you can't afford groceries, so you got to do nefarious acts, or that you fell in with the wrong crowd because you grew up in a bad neighborhood because the infrastructure of your neighborhood fell apart because of redlining that was maybe set in the 1940s by FDR and the Green New Deal. There's so many things of factors that people just aren't considering that you just lack the information to have an understanding of. And then you wanna say like, "Oh, it's white people." Well, it's not just white people. "Oh, it's black people." Well, it's not just black people. Um, it's circumstantial, and we've all done it to each other for, large portions and swaths of time. And I just wonder if it'll ever be like the people versus the government like it should be, or if it'll always be people versus people with the government just kind of puppeteering everything and putting stuff out to make you mad. You got dumb bald-headed bitches like Joy Reid saying stupid shit on TV. Um, and any of those Barry Weiss is supposed to try to bring back journalism to CBS or NBC. I think it was CBS. I can't remember. I don't know. I don't give a fuck. Barry Weiss doesn't. Who gives a shit? Just some random Jew lady. And I don't know. The social divide is just so strong now, and it's so painful to not be able to have conversations with people you disagree with and try to find a common ground. And like everybody presents facts. Nobody wants facts. Nobody wants fucking facts. Even the people who have claimed the facts, like Ben Shapiro and dumbass motherfuckers like that, you provide them with the facts about the whole Gaza Israel conflict, and they're like, stop them. You have to denounce them now. Tucker Carlson cannot be given a platform. Nick Fuentes cannot be given a platform. Like, buddy, who the fuck are you? You're just some weird dude with a fucking yarmulke who happens to be partially representative of the Jewish people, and you're trying to tell me what I should or shouldn't fucking believe. Who the fuck are you? And that's why I think also obviously his shit's falling apart, but that's why he's losing followers left and right. And I don't know. Week after week, shit moves so fast. We'll be on to the next thing in a couple weeks. Maduro won't even be a question. It won't even be talked about probably unless Venezuela does everything. And I wanted to bring that up too because I thought that was an interesting point that someone else made that, if liberalism could just like liberals today could just stop contradicting themselves at every fucking turn, bro. You guys contradict yourselves so fucking much and you think you're like smarter than everybody else for whatever fucking reason I don't understand because you got a college degree. Fucking congratulations. Guess what? It doesn't really mean a whole lot anymore, does it? Because everybody fucking got one. Every Tom, Dick, and Harry around town's got a motherfucking college degree. I don't because I didn't want to put myself in all that debt. And guess what? Doing a regular old job, I think I probably got it just as good as, half the college graduates out there. Maybe more, maybe upwards of like 60, 70% of the college graduates and myself, someone who didn't go to college, who just works off the back of his own labor, um, probably have similar salaries, similar lifestyles. I take vacations, I do things like, but it also took me a while to get here. And I think that so many kids are just like, have this little bit of sense of entitlement. Their parents end up buying them a car, they do this or that, and then all of a sudden you think the world owes you shit. And, you know, I gotta be frank with you, the world doesn't owe you anything, and it's sure as hell isn't gonna give you anything. And you can't be mad at the people that it does. Because a lot of times the people who get something work for it. And every once in a while you'll find somebody who was just given everything. And guess what? That person's life is just void. It's nothing. Doesn't hold anything. No purpose, no meaning, because they've never had to work for it. There's no up and down for them. It's always up. So, I mean, how can you ever really appreciate it when you never have the down? When you never have the part that gives you the reason to feel joy and, gives you that sense of accomplishment. And so I think you have to learn how to love the struggle. The people that are uber successful, that own businesses, that are really in shape, that take care of themselves, that can do what they want with their lives. They put their head down, they accept the bad with the good, and they realize that it's the balance that makes everything worth it. And, the more work you put in, the more likely you are to be successful just off the back of the fact that this is my personal belief that life gives you a karmatic balance to live off of. And if you adhere to that, you will find yourself doing good. You'll be above the line that is balance, and it'll be slightly more leaned towards good, but you can't stop some of the certain things. I don't know about you, but I can't stop myself from, judging people when I'm in public. I know it's not a nice thing. I shouldn't do it. Sue me. I fucking can't help it. It's honestly kind of fun sometimes. And I know that's not great, but everybody has their flaws. Everybody has that shit that frustrates them or that they think is unfair or um, you know, that thing that you go, "Well, that's kind of fucked up." And it's like, are you looking back at yourself and going, "Oh man, I got something that's kind of fucked up too though." And I'm not talking about like heinous crimes like murders, pedophilia, all that kind of weird shit. Talk about day-to-day normal stuff, you know, things that everybody resonates with, you know. When you're alone in the car, you pick your nose, you're like, "Damn, that's gross." You see someone else doing it, you're like, "That's gross," but then you're the kind of person who doesn't wipe well enough, or you're the kind of person who picks at your toes when you're at home alone. Um, you're the kind of person who scratches your ass, um, and then maybe smells it. Gross stuff that we all do that I think a lot of us forget is the human part of who we are. We're still animals, you know. We're still animals in our nature, and sometimes I wish we remembered that more. I try to, but I know it's hard. I know day to day it's hard, and I bitch and I moan and I complain about stuff, and while I'm at work, while I'm at home, this, that, or the other. Oh, but every day I try to get up with another, clean slate. All right, we're gonna make today a good day. Like, I think some of you just aren't doing that, and I think sometimes we let that become who we are, and that's why you look to these political entities to like give you reason and motivation is because you can't find it within yourself. I mean, I really stand by the Henry David Thoreau quote of um, most men lead lives of quiet desperation. And I think as we've evolved, it becomes people. Most people lead lives of quiet desperation. You want something so bad to be like contributory and to be useful. And I think so many of us want to think we're bigger than we are. But I mean, I guess if I'm giving my family a good life and I'm there for the people that need me, and I show up for myself when I need to, and I can give people 100% of me every time it's available, and that I'm there when I can't be 100% too, and give everything that I am, in those moments when someone calls upon me. And sometimes you have to think, like, yeah, that's really small, but at the same time, that's really important because the only thing that keeps us going is the rest of us. My family is what keeps me going. I got a nephew coming next year, and I'm super excited to see him, and I'm so happy for my brother, and that kind of stuff is what keeps me going. And you got to learn how to roll with the punches. I'm gonna see him less, all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, like I'm super stoked for other people to have successes, and I think so many of us struggle to be happy for other people's successes, and think like, why don't I have that? And I think one day I woke up and I was like, I don't have it because I'm not doing what they're doing. And so I got to find my own thing. I got to find something to make myself valuable. And I encourage you to do the same. Reach out, put your voice out, put your voice online. Or, I'm writing a book, find a creative outlet. Video games, coding, computers, technology is a great outlet. The way it's expanding. All the AI stuff we can do now with the videos you make, you could put that kind of content out if it's really fun. Um, but I really think the message I want to leave anybody with that was watching this is just that it's really important, I think, for us to find ways to be productive both to ourselves and to society because that'll stop a lot of the left versus right, in my opinion. Listen, you can have moral disagreements about, you know, whatever main subjects, abortion, porn, whatever your problem is. You can argue it, and I'm sure everybody could reach an agreement to disagree or to agree to a certain subset of standards that both of you see positive in. But the way we're going now, man, is a non productive society that's built on hatred and anger that just constantly fuels these algorithms that just feed you just negative shit all the time. And it's exhausting and you wake up angry and you're mad at the world and like I don't know. I'm just a guy ranting into a fucking camera, because I don't want to go crazy listening to all this shit all day long. So I think that's all I got for you this week. A little bit of rambling, a little bit of ranting. I appreciate you joining me. Hope your holidays were super good. Hope you're doing well wherever you are. And yeah, have a good rest of your week. See ya.